On the show, I'll be talking to musicians, vocalists I've worked with over the years and in the Detroit area. So, navigating being a working musician in everyday life, job, home life can be tricky for many of us. I know for myself that if you're an artist, you can relate. So, you may be interested in what it takes to pursue that lifestyle. So, I'm going to be talking to different friends that share those same sort of experiences being a working musician, and people I've worked with in the past and currently. And so, today, joining me as one talented woman, and she's not here. So I'm going to be talking to her all the way in Georgetown, Kentucky. She's got an amazing voice, and she's also a joy to work with. Not only has she worked with me and my band, but she's also performed with many known artists in Detroit. Welcome, Chrissy Morgan. Hi, Chrissy.
Hello there, Kat, and hello there, everybody.
Glad you can join. How you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. It's another beautiful day in the bluegrass, as they say.
There you go. Now, correct me. Now, I can never get this straight. Are you Georgetown or Lexington, where you're at, Kentucky?
We're north of Georgetown. That's where
Oh,
we're at, in a tiny town called Sadieville.
oh, that's right, Sadieville. That's right. And how long have you been there? What has it been, 5 years now?
We purchased the property October 2020, and we officially moved into this residence in April 2024. So it's
Okay.
been quite a journey to get to the point where I'm living in a home. But yeah, we purchased the property. Yeah, right towards tough
And Larry
times in our country, in the world.
Larry and I were fortunate enough to get together with you guys and see the new place, and it's beautiful, you know. So we were glad to be able to do that on our way back from Florida this last year. So tell everybody about yourself and what you do in your words. Go ahead.
Sure thing. My name is Chrissy Morgan, and I'm a singer, songwriter, actress, vocal mentor, and land proprietor.
There you
Added to
go.
my resume. So pretty much everything music that I can possibly do. A little acting helps pays the bills, and then the land kind of grounds me, quite literally.
Oh, absolutely. It's just gorgeous there.
Thank
So
you.
you and we go back quite a ways, and my memory is not the greatest, but I think I recall that we met at Caju Cafe years ago.
We certainly did, and
Yeah.
I, without a doubt, remember that moment. I'm the lead singer for the band Bricktown Station,
Right.
and I really just had this goal that if I was going to be a musician, I wanted to just do it every day, all day. That was the type of musician that I wanted to be, and Bricktown Station was one side of that, but it wasn't fulfilling all the other things I wanted to do in the industry, especially in Detroit. And I'm like, you know what would be fun is if I were a backup singer. And I think I quite literally manifested it, because I'm like, I'm going to this Caju Cafe open mic. I'm going to meet
Yeah.
musicians. And I
Right.
just thought it would be so much fun to kind of step away from the work of promotion and booking and paying band members and all of that that's a part of it, and
Oh, right.
to be on, just to have fun with it again, because I was sick of
Right.
not having fun with it. Oh my goodness, my cat has decided to join us. This is Billy Simone.
Oh, that's right.
Uh,
Billy Simone.
yeah,
Meow. Billy Simone.
named after Billie Holiday and Nina Simone.
Exactly.
Found
Right.
right
So what?
outside the Willis Show Bar.
There you go. Oh, you found her outside Willis Show Bar. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So
No.
I thought she needed a stage girl's name, and
There
so
you
Billy Simone it is.
there you go. Love it. Yeah.
Always
But
yeah.
you're talking about, expanding your horizons, and what better way to do that but at an open mic or jam session. That's how things like that
Exactly.
materialize. And that's how I met you, and that's how I met my drummer Jim Pryor, and that's, it's like you
It
kind of have to
connects
mix it
people.
up a little bit. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. And I think that it's not that I wanted to make sure it's not that I knew that it wasn't going to be work being a backup singer. I just needed to see other styles of music and be a part of different types of musicians,
Right,
and being a backup singer is so much fun.
right,
Coming up with
right.
dance moves and harmonies, it's I was in choir every year I was in school, so it was like, okay, I can harmonize and be playing on rock stages. This is amazing. And meeting you was fantastic. You're a multi-instrumentalist and a really talented vocalist. I'm like, oh, if this is
Thank
the lady I could work with, that would be cool.
So that worked out, absolutely fantastic for me, because I was like, okay, I'm going to be doing the show, and I need some help in the vocal department. So you were there like, oh yeah, I'd want to do that. And then after that, next thing I know, you're working with all these other groups like Scott Morgan, who's like my idol with the
Oh,
Rash.
oh, really? That's so cool. That
Oh,
is great.
absolutely. You work with
Yeah.
so many people. Wow, look what she's doing now. That's cool.
There's that. It was funny because that movie 20 Feet from Stardom came
Yes.
out right around that time. And so I don't know, kind of chicken egg situation. But
Right.
but being a backup singer, you really can work with so many different people. And
Right.
yeah, Scott Morgan, not related, but it's like the steps of
Oh, that's right.
separation
Morgan.
blows my mind sometimes. The
Right.
that he was in the Rationals and then working with all of the different musicians he'd worked with is crazy part of Detroit history. And
Absolutely.
and then backup singing for so many other artists too it's just been an opportunity of a lifetime.
That's great. And that just shows how versatile you are as well. And so then also, you also done a lot of work with Susie Woodman, who's, she's got just fantastic musical background in her own right. All the
Oh,
peoples that
without a doubt, without a
performed
doubt. It
in
was
her band.
funny in the same way that I met you. I had met Susie. I'd known her daughter from being in the
Oh, right.
scene for quite some time. And then I knew of Susie. I'd seen her perform. I had vocal lessons with a lady named Kate Hart, who was the head of the Detroit Women. She put on a
Oh,
show with the piano player, bluesman Paul Miles, who I'd worked with a
oh, right.
lot. Great spirit,
Yep.
great joy. And Susie was in that band also. So I was like, oh my gosh,
Love
this
it.
is so cool. And at the time that I reconnected with Susie, I was the backup singer for a young lady named Sophie Kay, kind of
Oh,
a young pop artist. And Susie was the piano player in the band. And right
right.
around that time, I was like, okay, I'm doing the backup singer thing, but I'm like, I haven't done kind of the jazz thing. I wanted to really kind of focus on that side and just, or jazz duo, piano
Right.
player, singer, that so many of my favorite artists have recordings of. And I'm like, I wanted to try that. And hearing Susie just play the piano, not during practice, before we were actually practicing, I'm like, I love the way she plays.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and we'd connected. Our first gig was New Year's Eve. It was, I think, 5 hours. Like,
Wow.
okay, well, we'll find out the songs we know. No pressure.
Oh,
And
okay.
then
Right. Right.
yeah, it's so funny. And before this, it was before I knew all of the history of the music that she had been a part of. The how much
Right.
of Michigan musician history that she is. Her and her husband Pete, her ex-husband Pete Woodman,
Yeah.
they were in California during the time in music history that you want to be in California, and they
I
were the
know.
backing band for Meatloaf.
Right.
And I think the band was Spaghetti Connection or some psychedelic band name like that.
Oh, I
And
I thought he was part of the group that they were in, not that they were backing him up. So I didn't.
It was probably both. I'm not sure.
Well,
I'm
okay,
totally.
because he
Yeah.
wasn't like Meatloaf then. You know what I mean? He was like,
No, 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 no. I think just everybody was going to California, and then
yeah,
and then
interesting.
they ended up moving to Michigan. And
Right,
Susie's connection with all of the legends that we think of in Detroit music history, she has
right.
a story about from somewhere. It's so neat when you know people that are behind the scenes of the music you've been listening to for decades, and
Absolutely.
to be
Yeah.
friends and perform with Susie is a joy.
I love when I walk into a crowd, you know, that happens to be, like you say, a lot of those people that were, you know, at in around that time. My parents wouldn't let me out the door at that point in time, so I was too young.
Yeah.
But to know people that were there is
Right.
is just phenomenal, because that's when it was happening. And that's what I think we've been trying to recreate that ever since. Really, that's what I know I'm always trying to do. But so
Yeah, I
on
can
a
see that.
yeah, and on a different note, I'm moving along here. That as I mentioned when Larry and I visited you and Chris over in Kentucky, was also real interesting to see your home out there. So maybe, you know, tell everybody about um, what you've been working on as far as the home life over there, because you've done something pretty unique in that you didn't move into a home already built, and you didn't put up your typical home that you might find in the suburbs, say, and you're out in the country, but still, did you design that? You and Chris designed that home. Didn't you tell me something to that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We were, it was just time to move out of state and try something different. We
Right.
The city mouse and country mouse is definitely part of us, and all of our vacations were to the woods to hike and be a part of nature, and it was just time to kind of see what it's like to live in the nature. And so we found a great deal on the property we have, but it was in pretty rough shape. We were just looking at pictures this morning and kind of overwhelmed at how far we've come.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
it was pretty much vacant land that the prior owner just let go, and we just felt it for some reason our mission to bring it back. And so we at first we were foolishly thinking, oh, we're just going to live in these sheds and just that'll be fine. But then we're like, no, no, how are we going to retire here? How are we going to
Hmm.
make this work? We're not in our 20s. So
Right.
we decided to build a house, and the design is kind of similar than to what existed prior, where there are two sheds and connected with like a hallway. So the
Hmm.
design was sort of part of what was already here, that we started from ground up. Um, and we designed it with the help of an architect, and went through very grueling process of building your own home. But we're
Yeah.
very grateful to be where we're at now. And I don't necessarily recommend building your own home. It is very hard, and
Oh,
puts a
right.
lot of strain on every single aspect of your life.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you did it though. I mean, I
yeah,
got
yeah, we did. We sure did.
yeah. Uh, but back up a little bit, because you said something about, did you pattern that design around the original structure, the old 1800s
Sort of.
home?
Here's the funny thing. The
Okay.
spot where the house is, there were two sheds, one next to each other. And
Right.
our idea is, okay, we can turn this into a home. One side could be our bedroom, the other could be the kitchen and dining room, and we'll
Okay.
connect it with a hallway to have the pets, because you need a spot for the litter box and where they're going to eat. So
Right.
we thought we were going to do this tiny home thing. And I'm glad we
Oh, right.
yeah.
Okay.
So then we were like, when we realized that let's just build a home, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So but afterwards thinking, that is the exact design of what we have on our property, is a 200-year-old log cabin, and they
Yeah.
call it a dog walk in between, and
Right.
it's two sides, two buildings next to each other with a hallway in between, and they build that hallway in between as a breezeway because this was before there was air conditioning, so it
Okay.
really helped cool the house down. So we unintentionally rebuilt the design of this 200-year-old building that's already on our property. So
Well, that
that
old
was kind of,
technology works today, and
yeah, yeah, it does, and it works for the same reason because it is cool if we leave the screen door open. So you're right, that's kind of fun.
so yeah, to see that, once again, we did walk through that older building and to see the old um, log. Well, they weren't log; they were not exactly logs. Where they looked to
They are
me like,
logs.
oh, they are logs,
They're
but they're like
huge.
square. To me, they look like huge railroad ties. But that
You know
anyway, it
what's
was just
crazy to
very
think about is
interesting.
that the trees used to be that big out on the East Coast in general, all through Appalachia,
Oh,
before
sure.
all of these homes were built because the lumber was there. So if you're going to build your homestead, chop the trees that are around you. And that's how big the trees were, which is just so fascinating to think of.
Just
Um,
huge.
yeah, I mean, each of them, God, over, I don't know, they're huge logs,
Yeah,
and and it's fun because you don't know that it's a log cabin out on. If you're driving past the road, you
right.
see, as you've seen it, it just looks like a white house with different, not vinyl siding, but different siding on the outside. But when you open the door, there's a log cabin there
Right,
that's been
because
preserved.
because they built the newer, and I say newer part over
Yeah,
the one, yeah. Um,
yeah. In the 1900s, it wasn't
yeah.
trendy to have a log cabin. You wanted to protect
Oh,
from the elements and everything else. So it does make me wonder now. Every time I see a house that's a similar style, is there a log cabin under there? Which is just such a
right.
neat thing. I never would have thought that before.
Probably, you like you say, a common thing to do because it was so solid underneath, so
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
So so from Detroit to Kentucky, um, and you've been there maybe enough time to learn the difference, between the music scenes. I mean, you definitely spend enough time in Detroit. What
Yeah.
would you say is the difference in the music scene there
Well,
compared to
it's really interesting. First of all, I'm a Jersey girl that moved to Detroit, and
Oh,
from
right.
that
Mhm.
aspect, I just fell in love with the music scene in Detroit because it's not one type of music. And it's
Right.
not just that it's not one type of music, it's all of the best of every type of music.
Yes.
And the birth of so many styles of music and
Right.
inspirations, and every studio band, backing band, producer, like there are so many roads that lead to Detroit. So compared
Absolutely.
to, unless you're talking about like a New York, which is similar, but it's sometimes overwhelming that there's
Yes.
so much
Yes.
in New York, and same with LA. I mean, you could say Nashville, but there's the like one style of music. I mean, it's expanding. You can say country,
Yeah.
bluegrass, folk, Americana, etc. And that's changing definitely. And then Austin does have a lot of different styles as well, but
Right.
I I've heard everything in Detroit. So there's nothing
Absolutely.
like Detroit. Where we live is a really interesting area. Not surprisingly, in Kentucky, they call Kentucky the front porch of the South, which I absolutely love.
Oh,
It's in the middle. So there's certainly lots of bluegrass. It's the home of bluegrass. Can't get away
sure.
with that. The
Yep.
deep Appalachia roots of music, bluegrass is everywhere. Lots of
Yep.
bluegrass festivals, lots of different local artists that play that style of music, and a lot of singer songwriters, so many singer songwriters. And around where we live, which is, I would say we're closer to Lexington than to Cincinnati, but where we're at, there are
Okay.
tons of open mic nights, which I just love.
Huh.
I mean, every single bar has an open mic night,
Yeah.
and a lot of singer-songwriters at those open mic nights. Not to say that didn't happen in Detroit, but I feel there was more jam nights and maybe a decade ago than there are now. I just hadn't
Okay.
seen as many in Detroit. I mean, I'd been kind of out of the scene, but it
Well,
just
you're
feels like
definitely
here there's more of the open
definitely
mics.
closer to Nashville over there, so that sort of makes sense too.
Yeah, I would say there's
Yeah.
the flow over. I went to a Singers in the Round night, and it was just lovely.
Wow.
Just they were very encouraging. And one of the things they did, which I hope it spreads, is every table had a postcard, and you would write on that postcard something about the favorite song you heard that night and give it to the artist. Which I'm like, gosh,
Oh,
that's so encouraging. You know, that each of those singers walk home with a note of encouragement, and just that
oh,
is a
absolutely.
lovely thing for
That's
musicianship.
a
Um,
great idea. Yeah.
yeah. There's also, being that we're in I would say Lexington's radio out here is phenomenal, and
Oh,
even like their pop. They have like I would say pop just because they're heavy rotation, but it plays Tyler Childers, Sturgill Simpson, but
okay.
also throws in Mavis Staples. You know, rock
Right.
and roots is a lot of what a lot the stations play out here, which I absolutely love. Little bluesy, great
Yeah.
vocal elements. So the influence is definitely with roots kind of music,
Okay.
and the college radio is gosh, it's everything
I
because
bet.
it's college
Yeah.
radio. Um,
Exactly.
so you get some of the punk scene, and some of the angrier music, which is so funny, as part of Kentucky, or like like some dub music, just other music that you're not necessarily expecting. So that's kind of fun. But what's interesting is that just in our north in Cincinnati is a
Right.
completely different music scene and vibe and type of, I would say, like more jazz and soul in Cincinnati. And
Because you get in the urban area, you know.
exactly,
Urban area.
exactly. And it's fantastic to get that too. And
Yeah.
I sometimes wish are a little bit closer, because some of that style of music I think enjoy joining bands, continuing doing the backups kind of a
Yeah.
thing with. There'd be more opportunities, obviously, in the city there in Cincinnati, but it's fun to dabble in between both worlds and really being in the middle
Yeah.
of it. Um, but it's still separated as opposed to what there was in Michigan. I can find all of those worlds in one place.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know that when Larry and I went towards your direction before we got to visit you, we did stop at some of the breweries and distilleries, and we were really impressed by some of the local bands. I mean, and I have to say the southern sensibility to R&B. Um, Another example is going to Macon, Georgia, and it's like the I say those kids. It's like they drank the
Yeah.
water, you know, and it's like
Yeah.
everybody sounds like the Allman Brothers, but they sound like them.
Right.
And
Right.
and they all have the long hair but they sound original, but they still have that feel of the southern, not only southern rock, but southern funk. And we were just like, wow,
Exactly.
we gotta check more
Exactly.
of this out, you know. So
Yeah. It's really fun to explore a new area for new inspirations for music. It's been really fun to do that. And a lot of the festivals, the radio stations play so much more local music, which is
yep.
really enjoyable, or at least the stations we're picking up. And that's been fun. And the festivals too. They play a lot of festivals out here, playing
Mhm.
local music too. So that's neat.
And that's what's missing here is local airplay. And I've gone to a lot of these different sort of meetups where we're going to all get together and try to get these radio stations to play local music and even do
Yeah.
little protests and everything, you know. Um, never worked out, especially when you got radio stations being bought out and owned by one company. It's like
Yeah.
you can't get that independent airplay in a town like this anyway.
Yeah.
Minneapolis, different story. Now, but on the flip side, Detroit, compared to, you go out to LA and you think, oh, I'm going to meet, people in the business out in LA. Well, heck, we can go to a restaurant right in Bloomfield Hills and run into somebody from, Ronnie McNair from the Four Tops, for instance.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
and you
Yeah,
walk into these rooms and you don't realize you're standing next to, somebody like Paul
exactly.
Weiser, who worked with Motown, did all the string arrangement. You don't know who you're standing next to half the time. You should. I should.
Right,
Oh,
right,
that was,
right. And it's always
my
a
God.
thing that's been
Yeah.
amazing with Detroit. How many home studios have gold records in the back
Yeah.
hanging on the wall? How many restaurants or
Yeah.
even like the foyer of some office building and you see a Grammy and you're like, what? It's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
everywhere. And I think sometimes the people of Michigan take that for granted, how many
Absolutely.
artists that are a part of Grammy award-winning albums of today that are in the studio, that are working with different people. I mean, it's unbelievable,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Um, so on another note, that you're also a vocal teacher.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I like to say vocal mentor because
Okay.
sometimes we're singing la 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 la,
Yeah.
but sometimes we're just talking what it's like to be in a band, what it's
Mhm.
like to I have a student who's in a musical right now and what struggles she's going through or other things.
Right.
It's not
Sure.
exactly therapy, but it's fun when you're able to talk to somebody who understands. And so
Right.
definitely we teach lessons, but you never know where those lessons end up going throughout the day and
Mhm.
or throughout the session. And so I started teaching at the School of Rock in Rochester Hills. Um,
All right.
um, Randomly, I was working as a backup singer for the Sights with Eddie Baranek, and he was working at the School of Rock in Rochester Hills. Needed an opening, and it happened quicker than I could imagine. And he's like, "No, we need you now." And I'm like, "I don't know how to play the piano." He's like, "You know more than them." I'm like, "Okay." And it started from there, and then I really came to love it. And
Yeah.
my skills have gotten a lot better on the piano. But when COVID happened, everything went to video as we are now. But I'd realized how convenient that was instead of having a
Yeah.
commute. I went from the School of Rock in Rochester to Berkeley Music Company, and really not long after that, it was COVID. And did my lessons on Zoom. And when I moved out of state, I'm like, I could still do this,
Yeah.
and
Right.
have. So it's been great.
And this is working for us right now.
Yeah, exactly,
Being able to do
exactly.
that.
One of
So
the
I didn't want
things of
to drive all the
technology.
way up here. I didn't want you to drive all the way up here for for this.
Thank you.
Although I'm gonna talk you into it for my October show. It was like
I'll be there. I'll be there. Anything you want, Kat.
excellent, excellent. So let's see. Oh, one more thing, and then I'm probably
Oh
gonna
yeah.
wrap things up. Uh, you've been also hosting, and see if I got this right, some shows or podcasts about the historical locations in your area.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so moving to another state, I changed my income stream. Yeah, I released a solo album, Simple Love Songs, but really didn't promote it. I stopped gigging 3, 4 times a week.
Right.
Stopped. Lost some of my lessons. Just moving out of state, that happens.
Yeah.
So really kind of was like, what do I do? And we're building a home, so that takes a lot of your
And what?
time.
I didn't hear that last one.
We're building a home, so that takes some
Nice.
time to
Yeah.
do. So I was looking on Craigslist, and I'd gotten a couple recording opportunities, little things here and there, and then I saw one that said that they were looking for a host for a YouTube series, and it quite literally said, "It won't pay your bills, but you'll have the time of your life." And
Right.
and I was like, well, that sounds interesting enough, and
Yep.
it was pretty accurate. But It's been a blast. It's been an absolute blast. It's called History in Your Own Backyard.
That's right.
And I've done over 10 different videos. The host or the creation is from Satoli Glassmeyer, who really wants to preserve history that's literally in your own backyard that you don't know about, and share that with the world really before it goes away, because our country's
Exactly.
constantly knocking things down, sometimes things that probably shouldn't be knocked down, or
Right.
should be known about before they do. I know that's happening a lot right now in Detroit,
Yep.
where we need to start preserving some of these things: studios, historical locations, artist residence, all of these places before they go away, or find a
Yep.
way to share them to see if they can get some funding. So by being a part of this, I feel like I'm helping in that mission. But also I have met roller coaster designers. I've met historical preservationists of Civil War and
Right.
buildings, and just everything in between. It is
Wow.
really given me the opportunity to explore this area in particular, and have a riot talking to all these different people
Oh,
who
absolutely.
want to share where their historical location is. And it's really, and I would have never seen this in my future, but I love it so much.
And one more time, that's called History in Your Own Backyard. Is that right?
History in Your Own Backyard. Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's
And
found on
he has a
YouTube.
ton of locations, and he
Okay.
always, they're, all of these videos are cataloged, sent to the local town library. Funny
Okay.
thing, when we were looking at this area for the property, we're looking online, making sure, okay, is this a safe area? Is there a dump nearby? Whatever, all those things. You do research on the area. And we
Yep.
saw History in Your Own Backyard videos before I
Okay.
was ever a part of it. So crazy how things work out like that.
And that could be found on YouTube if somebody searches on YouTube.
Yeah. Or there's a website with all of an easier way to see specifically. There are some in Michigan, which are really interesting. And he's
Okay.
really in the Midwest, but looking to expand. And
Huh.
and if you have a place, go ahead and contact Satoli and tell him Chrissy sent you.
There you go. Well, I know that the Michigan Central Station is a success story in itself downtown. So
Oh my gosh,
that's
yes,
major.
absolutely it is.
Another thing we talk about promotion is your latest CD, Simple Love Songs. Where can everybody find that?
Right now, it's a lot of streaming, or you can contact me personally, chrissymorgan.com, send me a message, and I can
Okay.
hand deliver it to you. Or if I'm ever performing, I usually have a couple in my bag. It's my freshman album, which I called it Simple Love Songs, because I'm like, I just got to get this album out. I'm too old to have songs that are just sitting there, and
Yep. It's beautiful though.
I
Yep.
write songs all the time. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I've got to go through this process of beginning to end, recording, designing the artwork with a team, working with the band members, the copyrights, all of that, getting it on streaming services, all the work that takes to
Yeah.
release an album, except promotion and having an actual album release and tour with it. Just to see what that's like.
Yeah. And
To see
it's
how it works to promote online.
yeah, and I can attest to the fact of all the work that is involved, but right now you have, at least with the CD, you have a physical copy of your work there.
Yes.
And
A
then if you
lot of
wanted,
physical copies.
well, I got my closets full of boxes as well,
Right.
but you cross over to the digital format, and then yeah, you have to wrestle with all the distribution companies and to get it on the Spotify
Yeah.
and the Pandoras and all that, and then you got to promote that. So I'm helping another friend artist sort of navigate that, and it's a headache, but the other side of it is that at least there's an outlet for independent artists like us.
Exactly.
with that,
Exactly. I was mentioning,
I've got a record deal over here, and
yeah, I mean, you never know. You just
yeah,
never know. I mean, the opportunities for your songs. I mean, I sometimes complain like, oh God, I've only had 2 streams or whatever it is, but
yeah, yeah,
that was so different 2 decades ago. The opportunity that I could say, oh my gosh, someone listened to my song in Italy. I don't know how that would have happened
yeah,
prior. So it's really neat that that technology exists to be able to reach people that far, but
yeah,
it's also so underwhelming when you hear about billions of streams from some of the
yeah,
top artists.
right, right.
But it's an interesting world to navigate. I still enjoy it. I just trying to figure out how to do it, which every artist is trying to figure this out. I think how to do it while still maintaining your health, maintaining your sanity, maintaining, you can't keep up with all of the technology. It's just impossible.
Absolutely.
So what
I can,
limits are you willing to go to or
I
learn or
can
whatever?
recommend, I can recommend a site that can help boost your streams, you know,
Right,
and, but,
right.
and
Which that
it's not
helps because that's what
scam
people look
ones either.
at.
You got to watch out for the scam ones. Oh, we'll help you
Of
boost your
course.
streams and all that stuff. And but there are some legitimate ones that I've dealt with. But yeah, it takes a lot of time to sort through all that. And but anyway, once again, I'll say the name again: Simple Love Songs. Everybody, be on the lookout for that. And
And I'm in the process of writing my second album now, so
nice.
I'm excited for that just as well, and see where that takes me. And if I could just write album after album, I would be all for.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Well, hey, Chrissy, thanks so much for taking the time today. And we were talking about the digital streams and not the kind of stream that's going in your backyard. Beautiful over there.
Right. I can live in both worlds.
Two types of streams we're talking about. So
Yeah.
everybody look for Chrissy in the Detroit area over the next few months, performing with different bands. And
Yes.
thank you, Chrissy. I'll see you in October. Okay.
Kat, I'm so excited for that. And it's been wonderful to talk to you as always. And I really appreciate being able to share a little bit about me to everybody out there.
Great. Thanks for doing this. Okay. We'll see you
My
later.
pleasure. Have a great day.